This is VOA Africa.
Good evening, I'm Esther Githu-Ewart. It's Tuesday, October 8th. This is Africa 54. Combating gender violence and corruption in Kenya. We sit down with the country's former vice president on the way forward. Is a climate disaster looming in Zambia? We'll have a special report from Livingstone about the effects of severe drought in the country. And the mayor of Accra talks about the impact of climate change on his city. Kenya's health ministry is sounding the alarm on what many fear is becoming an epidemic in the East African nation, drug abuse. The Ministry of Health says heroin use is increasing and Kenya is seeing more and more addicts. Serena Chondri has more.
26-year-old Jason is at the clinic for his daily dose of methadone, an accepted practice to help wean him off drugs. He's been taking it for over a year, following 5 years of using heroin, which landed him in jail, made him sick and caused fights with his parents. He's just one example of a growing addiction problem in Kenya.
The withdrawal symptoms are so bad because at times you feel there's a fever, there's a stomachache, you feel your body has a lot of pain. You have a lot of pain in your body, mostly at the back joint, at the backbone. Headaches, stomachaches. You can't do anything. You can't do anything without them.
Kenya's health ministry says the number of people injecting drugs has jumped by more than 50% in the last 8 years. Most users take heroin, driven by peer pressure and the stress of poverty and unemployment. It's a cheap drug to score at less than $2 for a single dose. That's roughly a fifth of the average price in the US, according to the UN. And Mombasa is becoming a growing hub for drugs from Afghanistan to the west. The Medicine Sans Frontier clinic Jason now attends in Kiambu also offers other services like psychological counseling and care for HIV and AIDS. It opened early in October and is the first to do so.
Because we are offering an integrated approach, all services under one roof, I think it will offer what the patients require in terms of, for example, if they need HIV care, if they need TB treatment, if they have the methadone, we have it here, hepatitis C treatment.
Africa had the world's fastest growing number of heroin users from 2006 to 2016, according to the UN.
Serena Chondri of Reuters with that report. Staying in Kenya, where violence against women is on the rise. A spate of murders across the country involving women and girls is grabbing media headlines and sparking outrage. Recently, I sat down with Musalia Mudavadi, Kenya's former vice president. I asked him why this is happening and why it appears no one has been convicted.
We've had some tragic incidents, no doubts about it, and they've been growing. And in my view, this means that there's a lot of tension in society in Nairobi, aspects that are rising out of either depression or a lot of stress. We could also be having situations where there's excessive use of illicit substances. And these are beginning to manifest themselves in increased violence against women. In terms of the justice process, I do agree with you. Sometimes investigation takes too long. Perhaps also there could be some cultural issues and people trying to conceal information. Maybe even elements within the investigative bodies may take some sympathetic role. And sometimes you can't rule out just sheer corruption of the institutions that are supposed to deal with such crimes. So it is a serious issue. We need to speak more openly about it. And the investigative agencies and even the human rights agencies need to take a more proactive role.
What step would you take to make sure that the youth of Kenya are not getting involved in these illicit drugs you just mentioned?
I would strongly say that there would have to be a dedication of resources earmarked to just developing what you'd call positive values and attitudes consistent with Chapter 6 of our Constitution, getting people to understand that the whole component of integrity and the need to observe the rule of law and to live with the right values is important. Let me put it, very strange characters being elected into positions of authority. And this then tends to feed into the rest of the society, where people think that it is fashionable to break the law and get away with it. It's fashionable to be in office and display impunity. These are things we must eliminate.
I just returned from Kenya. I was there for 5 weeks, and I traversed the country, and I saw a level of poverty that I have never seen before. What is your take on that? Why are politicians not addressing the issues that concern the people?
The government in place should not try and pass the buck on this one, because corruption is a big problem. They are the ones at the center of it. Here is a situation where the president is pulling right and his deputy is pulling left. So that is purely an issue of the government of the day. They have to get their act together. But other aspects which you cannot run away from is the fact that the Jubilee government has engaged in massive borrowing, and the public debt has grown to now a level at which it is about 60% of our GDP. That is extremely high for an economy the size of Kenya's.
Musalia Mudavadi is Kenya's former vice president. He spoke to me at the Voice of America studios here in Washington. Today, we continue our special focus on the southern African nation of Zambia. That country is facing a severe drought. The dry spell is being blamed for chronic power shortages, which many say is causing power cuts and crippling businesses. Africa 54's managing editor, Vincent Makori, is in Zambia this week and brings us this special report from the city of Livingstone.
The southwestern city of Livingstone, just a few kilometers from the Zimbabwe border, is a hub for visitors coming to see the breathtaking Victoria Falls. However, due to the drought in this region, the city's traffic has been remarkably low. Businesses, big and small, say the daily power rationing has dealt them a big blow. Load shedding, the shutting off of power for up to 13 hours a day, has had serious implications on businesses across Zambia. Here in the city of Livingstone, some businesses, especially barber shops, hair salons, have had to close most of the time. Some other businesses are saying they have had to adjust their hours of operation. In fact, some other businesses are saying they have had even to adjust the way they operate their businesses.
This problem of load shedding, we are losing out business. Customers come in, so they find that maybe we haven't cut any fresh meat. They don't buy. Yeah, we just leave and maybe promising to come later on. More especially that now it has gone up to beyond 10 hours a day. It is getting worse.
The perishable goods stores, which need refrigeration, are perhaps hit hardest. However, load shedding has touched virtually every business in the city of Livingstone in a variety of ways.
So we've been, a little bit forced to reduce the hours because it tends to be dark in the night. Because these backup lights that we get, they can only go for 2 hours. And so maybe instead of going up to 9 p.m., we end up closing at 7 p.m. So at least there's that loss of business in 2 hours. Currently we're experiencing about 12 to 13 hours of power outage a day. So that will swing in between the hours. I haven't really followed the schedule, but I know that in a 24-hour period, I'll have 13 hours of no power.
As the drought persists, the business people and residents are learning with a lot of frustration to cope and adjust as they await the rains which ideally should have started falling early October. Vincent Makori, Managing Editor, VOA Africa 54, Livingstone, Zambia.
Africa 54's Managing Editor Vincent Makori will be in Zambia all week, joining us again tomorrow for another special report from that country. And on Friday, we'll bring you a special News Corps production with our affiliate news station ZNBC. Be sure not to miss it. Rwanda's Mara Group has launched 2 smartphones, describing them as the first made-in-Africa models. The move is set to boost the country's ambitions to become a regional technology hub. The Mara X and Mara Z will use Google's Android operating system. They will cost $190 and $130 respectively. They will compete with Samsung, whose cheapest smartphone costs $54. Mara Group CEO Ashish Etakar says they are targeting customers willing to pay more for quality. Mara Group hopes to profit from the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, a pact aimed at forming a 55-nation trade bloc to boost sales across Africa.
In London, activists glued themselves to railings blocking traffic in Trafalgar Square. In Paris, they occupied the bridge across the River Seine.
It's clearly nonviolent.
Now, hundreds of activists were arrested Monday in cities around the world at the start of a 2-week global campaign aimed at raising awareness of climate emergency. The international effort was coordinated by Extinction Rebellion, a movement fighting for the protection of biodiversity with non-violent resistance and civil disobedience. As VOA's Latza Hawk reports, activists demand drastic carbon emission cuts to halt global rise in temperatures and its harmful effects.
In London, activists glued themselves to railings blocking traffic in Trafalgar Square. In Paris, they occupied the bridge across the River Seine.
It's clearly nonviolent. It's human. We are not here with guns. We are here as human beings, and we say, those are our bodies, and with them, we are here to say, face the truth, tell the truth to people, and then people will probably accept and make the efforts they have to make to survive.
In Berlin and Amsterdam, protesters crowded central avenues to hamper traffic. Hundreds were arrested worldwide for refusing orders to move. In New York City, they got in trouble for dousing the Wall Street statue of the charging bull with fake blood. Fake blood-spattered protesters staged a die-in around the statue, holding tombstones, while an activist briefly climbed on the bull and hoisted the organization's flag. Extinction Rebellion says the Wall Street financial community has blood on its hands for putting profits above the planet's health. Some events were more cheerful. 2 women got married on London's Westminster Bridge, taking their vows above the River Thames, with a large and supportive crowd looking on. Extinction Rebellion, or XR, rose to prominence in April when it disrupted traffic in central London for 11 days. The movement has grown since then, with activists demanding that carbon emissions be reduced to 0 by 2025 as part of an emergency program to halt the loss of biodiversity. The XR campaign does not dictate measures to achieve that goal.
Extinction Rebellion will never make concrete policy proposals. We are saying the issue has to be handed back democratically to the citizens, who then decide on the measures together.
The movement has spread to other continents, including Africa.
It doesn't matter what party you come from, we're all on this planet and we're all threatened by this extinction. And we must stand together. So that's the only way we're going to get through. We need everyone.
And Australia.
We are running out of time, and we cannot rely on corporations and coal-loving politicians to save us.
The demonstrations launched Monday are the latest in a series of recent global events demanding political action against climate change. Zlarica Hawk, VOA News, Washington.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, health and climate change with the mayor of Accra. We'll be back.
Could be French, Bantu.
Arabic.
It is the beat.
The African beat that counts.
The beat does all the translations.
It cuts across all languages and gives us the understanding that this is the African beat.
It is so distinct
and adhesive.
It binds us together.
African beat on the Voice of America. For more information, visit our website at www.voanews.com/AfricanBeat.
I am Sheikh Asali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
I'm Clara Frank, and here's what's trending. Western Australia's growing aquaculture industry is revitalizing small tourist towns on the state's south coast. The regional government is looking to the sector to help fulfill its promise of creating 30,000 new regional jobs. Work in Bremer Bay is normally seasonal and relies on tourism, but permanent employment in aquaculture has boosted the economy. Abalone grown in Augusta is in demand in premium markets in Asia. Next up, Harley-Davidson is betting on electric motorcycles to attract the next generation of younger and more environmentally conscious riders to reverse declining U.S. sales. Dealers say Harley is aiming for a market that does not really exist: young, green, and affluent first-time motorcyclists. So far, the bulk of pre-orders for the Livewire have come in from existing and old riders. Harley has for years failed to increase sales in the United States, its top market accounting for more than half of its motorcycles sold. And finally, a meteorite more than 4 billion years old is among the artwork on show at this year's Frieze Masters in London. The prestigious event also showcases art from the classical era, as well as works commemorating the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. One of the trends and big sellers at this year's Frieze Masters is Asian art, from Japanese samurai armor to ceramics. And that's what's trending today.
Turning to political news in the United States, 3 U.S. House of Representatives committees are expected to question the U.S. ambassador to the European Union, Gordon Sondland. They want to find out more about the interactions between President Donald Trump and top Ukrainian officials, but the State Department has reportedly asked Sondland not to appear. The closed-door deposition is part of an ongoing impeachment inquiry into President Trump. Sondland has become a prominent figure in the probe because of his alleged efforts to get Ukraine to investigate President Trump's political rival, former Vice President Joe Biden, and his son Hunter. According to a whistleblower complaint, Sondland and U.S. envoy to the Ukraine, Kurt Volker, met with Ukrainian political figures the day after Mr. Trump spoke by telephone with the country's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Speaking to reporters at the White House on Monday, Mr. Trump again defended that phone conversation with Zelensky as a perfect call.
Stenographers, you had people that took it down exactly. It was a perfect call. It's just a scam. This is a scam by the Democrats to try and win an election that they're not going to win in 2020. All you have to do is take a look at the polls, see what happened. One poll had me up 12 points, 16 points, or 17 points. We just take a look at what's going on. The people understand it's a scam. They're trying to win an election in 2020 by using impeachment.
The U.S. State Department, House Intelligence, Foreign Affairs and Oversight Committees have been leading the inquiry with depositions and subpoenas seeking documents from the Trump administration and the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. The probe will also focus on whether or not Mr. Trump's decision to withhold military aid to Ukraine was tied to his request for a Ukrainian investigation into the Bidens. No evidence of corruption by the Bidens in Ukraine has been found.
We've been in Syria for many years. You know, Syria was supposed to be a short-term hit, just a very short-term hit, and we were supposed to be in and out.
Kurdish allies who were told the U.S. would be around to prevent Turkey from attacking feel lied to.
The United States, as always, has betrayed us and sold us once again.
Kurdish forces have dismantled defenses in the north due to American assurances of protection. Locals now worry they'll suffer the same fate as other Syrians did in previous Turkish offensives.
People were killed, women were abducted, and a lot of people fled their homes. Turkey acted inhumanely there, and we fear that it will do the same here.
Democrats and Republicans have criticized the move. Senator Lindsey Graham tweeted, "By abandoning the Kurds, we have sent the most dangerous signal possible. America is an unreliable ally."
Mr. Trump seems to sometimes lose patience or attention in regard to sustaining the victory. And we've often had successes in the Middle East that we worked very hard to attain and then just didn't do enough to sustain it.
The Pentagon appears caught in the middle, stating today that the Department of Defense does not endorse a Turkish operation in northern Syria. Trump appeared to walk the decision back a bit, threatening sanctions to, quote, obliterate the Turkish economy should their forces do anything off limits.
I don't think we're in a great place to be trading threats with Turkey about how we're all going to retaliate against each other. It's much more important to try to work cooperatively on the ground, mitigate our differences.
And officials at the Pentagon worry that Islamic State, the common enemy of the Turks, Kurds, and Americans, could see the latest discord as an opportunity to resurge. Carla Babb, VOA News, the Pentagon.
The report by VOA correspondent Carla Babb from the Pentagon talking about the United States president pulling U.S. troops out of northern Syria as Turkey moves forward with a military offensive. Now, Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam says she will not rule out getting help from the mainland China to deal with pro-democracy protests. Lam says she feels strongly that Hong Kong should, quote, find the solutions ourselves using dialogue and policy efforts instead of turning to Beijing for help. Lam told reporters she wants to try to restore calm and order by addressing some of the deeper issues that have driven the street demonstrations, such as the economy. The World Health Organization says climate change is expected to cause approximately 250,000 additional deaths per year between 2030 and 2050. The WHO says the planet will also experience excessive heat, worsened air quality, water-related illnesses, and diarrhea. And Africa will be the worst affected. Africa 54's Lino Mudu spoke to the mayor of Ghana's capital, Accra, Mohamed Ajay Soa, about how to combat these effects.
The issues of climate is very glaring and affecting our lives, such as perennial flood that we experience in Accra every year when it rains, because nowadays it rains more heavy at a shorter time, and its impact is always disastrous. Secondly, Accra, it's along the coasts, and the low-income communities dotted along the coasts, main occupation is fishing. And because of rise in sea levels, they often even don't dock their canoe. And unannounced tidal waves, which happens every year, also crushes their canoe, spoils them, and affects their fishing inputs as well. And anytime it happens, we have to spend a lot of money again to support the affected people as well. Let me also say that the EPA report clearly also shows that heat has gone up, and we are experiencing a lot more heat in Accra than before.
So then, faced with these various challenges, what are you doing concretely?
We did an audit of what are the sources of emissions in Accra, and 3 key things came up. One is the burning of waste. The second one, it's the traffic situation, which amounts to a lot of sources of emissions in Accra, because there are a lot more vehicles in Accra. And then if you looked at Accra and compared it to about 15 to 20 years, the skyline has changed. A lot more buildings are coming up, but Many of them are also not energy efficient compliant. We've made a decision that Accra should be the cleanest city by the end of 2020 in the whole of Africa.
By the end of 2020?
Exactly.
That's 1 year away. How do you do that?
So in dealing with waste management issues, which is a development matter to make Accra clean, we are also dealing with issues of climate because waste is a source of emission in Accra. We have provided litter bins to many household communities, low-income communities in Accra, because they don't have, many of them do not have receptacles to keep their waste, and in the end, they rather burn it. On issue about transport, which is the main problem also in Accra, we want to take away a lot of the single occupant vehicles also from the road and use a more energy efficient buses on our roads so that we'll be able to deal with issues of and reduce the emissions that we have in Accra. And then the third source of emission that we have, which is the stationary buildings that we have. What we control in the city, it's the built environment. So when developers apply for permit to put up a structure, we engage the developers to make sure they incorporate energy efficient methods in putting up their building.
That was Africa 54's Lino Mudu speaking with the mayor of Ghana's capital, Accra, Mohamed Ajay Sowa. Now, the 2019 Nobel Prize for Physiology and Medicine has been awarded to scientists William G. Kaelin Jr., Peter J. Ratcliffe, and Greg L. Semenza. Secretary of the Nobel Committee Thomas Palman said the trio were awarded the 2019 Nobel Prize for their discoveries of how cells sense and adapt to oxygen availability. The advances will help find new ways to fight anemia, cancer, and other diseases. It is the 110th prize in the category that has been awarded since 1901. Kaelin, Semenza, and Ratcliffe will each get equal share of the $918,000 cash award. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a good evening.